friends, welcome once again. So today we are going to discuss the topic of the digestion of the food, and the chapter is life processes. We will discuss how the food is digested and what are the different stages right from intake of the food to the ejection of the waste material. So we will be discussing here all the functions of the different parts of the alimentary canal and other organs which participate into the digestion process of the food, the glands which secrete the enzymes for the purpose of digestion of the food and their functions also we will be discussing, the elements of the food which are separated, how they are stored in the body, this we will be discussing, and also we will be discussing the different stages of digestion. So this is the diagram which shows the alimentary canal. So starts from the mouth. This is the mouth. So here we have teeth, and this is the tongue. This is the tongue here, and here we have the salivary gland. This is the tongue. So we have the salivary glands which are present in the mouth, and they excrete the enzyme called salivary amylase. Salivary glands. So salivary gland is one of the most important gland present in this tract or the alimentary canal or this pathway. So this is very important because one thing is that it secretes the salivary amylase, the enzyme. So what is the function of enzyme? Let me tell you first is before this, let me tell you that there are two stages of digestion of the food. One is physical digestion, which begins in the mouth cavity with the help of teeth and tongue and this, and second is the chemical digestion. This is completed into various organs of the body. So physical digestion begins here. This is the food pipe known as esophagus. This is the windpipe connected to the nose. So esophagus, this is the food pipe which is made of the tissue that is known as cartilage, so that it does not collapse, and the food after intake enters through this mouth cavity and moves into the food pipe here, and food pipe has got the muscles on its side, so they can alternately contract and expand. So these type of movements are known as peristaltic movement. Peristaltic movements. So these peristaltic movements are very important in these organs, including the food pipe, because the organs have at the exit of every organ sphincter muscles are present, and these sphincter muscles contract and expand alternately so that the food, digested or undigested or partially digested, moves into the next pathway or next organ of the alimentary canal. So from here it enters the stomach. This is a J-shaped organ of the body, and this is stomach. Here it is connected to this. We have pancreas and the liver. They both help in the digestion, and they excrete the enzymes which are necessary for this purpose. And you know that liver is the strongest element organ of the body, and the this is the largest gland of the body. So this contains the gallbladder. This is the gallbladder which stores the bile. Gallbladder and pancreas both are connected to the exit of the stomach, and after this the food enters the small intestine. This is called small intestine, although this is longer, very long, around 6.5 meters in length for an adult person, but because its diameter is very small, it is very narrow. That's why we call it the small intestine. It is in the form of coils and surrounded by the larger intestine. This end of larger intestine is known as appendix, and here the food after complete digestion for the purpose of absorption of water enters a larger cross section area tract or pipe that is known as large intestine, and after that the waste enters the rectum, and then there is anus, and the sphincter muscles cause the waste to go out or excreted through the anus. So this is the pathway. Now we can discuss what happens when the food intake starts. That is known as ingestion of the food. This is the first stage. First there is ingestion of the food, means intake of the food. So food intake begins, and with the help of the teeth, the teeth cut the food, they chew the food, and they grind the food, so that size of the food is reduced. If you have a morsel or a piece of bread, then the teeth help in reducing the size of that by cutting, chewing, and grinding. And there are movements of the tongue also. So as a result of this, the saliva, which is excreted by the salivary gland, this also contains the this enzyme that is known as salivary amylase. So this is mixed properly with the food, so that it is partially digested in this stage. So in mouth we can say that food is physically digested, means it is ready for next stage, that is the chemical digestion, that is called physical digestion. So this happens in mouth cavity. As far as the next stage is concerned, chemical digestion, this is the digestion of the food with the help of enzymes. They are working as biocatalyst enzymes, and this results into digested food. So what is a catalyst? Catalyst is a substance which changes the rate of the reaction. So food is digested at a faster rate when the enzymes are present, without which it will not be possible. So what actually is happening when food is digested? The larger or complex molecules of carbohydrate, etc., protein, fat, globules, they are converted into smaller and simpler molecules which are easily absorbed, or which can easily mix or assimilate with water, and they can be absorbed by the blood, so that they are carried to different parts of the body, stored in the cells in the form of energy. This is what actually happens in case of digestion. So it begins with the first stage, that is ingestion, intake. So the teeth here, they cut the food into smaller pieces, and then the physical digestion process begins in the cavity. So here we have the salivary glands secrete the enzyme that is called salivary amylase. Salivary amylase, and this is one of the most important enzymes, because without the saliva, the food will remain dry, and it is not easy to move this dry food further into the alimentary canal. So the food remains here for a very short time, and then moves through the peristaltic movements of the food pipe into this stomach. So here the food comes through this here into the stomach. So the digestion, chemical digestion, you can say, this begins in the stomach. So how this happens, let us discuss. The salivary amylase, this converts the starch or the carbohydrate present in the food into sugar. So the digestion begins here. This is the significance of the salivary amylase. Now after this, you can see that when the food enters the stomach, the food is churned in the stomach and remains here for around 3 hours, for a long time, and as a result of this, the partial digestion of the chemical digestion of the food begins. So during this time, food breaks down into still smaller pieces, and here the food becomes semi-solid. Here it was solid, some saliva was mixed to it with salivary amylase, which converts star or carbohydrate into sugar, and after that the semi-solid food enters here into the stomach and remains here for around 3 hours, and again further divided into this smaller pieces. So there are tubular glands in the walls of the stomach, and they secrete the gastric juice. The glands in the form of tubes, small glands, are present in the walls of the stomach, and they secrete the gastric juice. So gastric juice contains three substances. One is the hydrochloric acid, other is pepsin, and the third one is mucus. So hydrochloric acid makes the medium acidic. Why it makes the medium acidic? Because pepsin is an enzyme which is secreted here. So pepsin works only in an acidic medium. So acidic medium is required. So that acidic medium is provided by hydrochloric acid. Now why mucus is released or secreted? So mucus is a substance that you can say that saves the stomach from being damaged. The inner lining, inner surface of the stomach does not get damaged because of the hydrochloric acid present. So mucus saves the stomach lining from being damaged because of the hydrochloric acid. And hydrochloric acid, on one hand, it makes the medium acidic because pepsin can act only in acidic medium. On the other hand, if any bacteria are present in the food at this stage, so they are destroyed by the hydrochloric acid, and no bacteria is allowed to enter the next stage of the food digestion. So this is very important. The question may be asked, why HCl is produced, or why mucus is produced, and which enzyme is present at this stage. In case the mucus is not produced, then the inner surface or lining of the stomach will be damaged because of the hydrochloric acid, and this is, I must tell you, called the problem of acidity. If hydrochloric acid is secreted in large amount, more than the required, then we have the acidity. The acid comes up through the esophagus, and as a result we feel like tendency of vomiting, etc., every time. So this is cured by some alkaline medium, introducing the alkaline medium, like we have the baking soda or the milk of magnesia, etc., which neutralizes the excess hydrochloric acid. So here we have the enzyme which is released, pepsin. This begins the digestion of proteins present in the food to form smaller molecule. This is the function of pepsin. Proteins, or it emulsifies, you can say, or it breaks the proteins into smaller molecules. This is the function of pepsin. So this can be done only in the presence of an acid. Now after this, the partially digested food goes from the stomach into the small intestine, and this is done with the help of the sphincter muscles, which release it into small amounts into the small intestine. Now there is one thing, what should be the length, or which animal, which includes human beings also, which type of the animals or human beings, etc., have larger length or a longer intestine, small intestine. So the animals which the intake of food for them is grass. Grass is a cellulose material. So if they are herbivorous animals like cow, etc., which eat grass, so they need a longer small intestine. What is the purpose for this? Because its digestion takes time. Cellulose food contains carbohydrates mainly, so the digestion of that takes time. So they have a longer small intestine. As far as, on the other hand, the animals who eat, including the human beings also, who eat the the meat as their main food. So I think human beings, this should not be included here. For the let us talk about the animals only. For the animals which for which the main intake of food is meat. So meat is digested easily and it takes smaller time as far as the cellulose food intake is concerned. So they have smaller intestine as compared to the herbivorous animals. So you can say that the length of intestine is more in case of herbivorous animals like cow, etc., which eat mainly grass, as compared to the carnivorous animal like lion, tiger, etc., for which the main intake of food is meat. Now after this, you can see the food is moving into the small intestine. So small intestine in the human beings, this is the site of complete digestion of food. That includes the carbohydrate, protein and fat, etc. How this happens, let us discuss. The secretion that the small intestine, this is the small intestine, that this is receiving is one from the liver, other from the pancreas. So liver is secreting the bile. Bile is a greenish yellow liquid. Liver secretes bile, and bile is a greenish yellow liquid that makes the medium alkaline, and bile is stored in the gallbladder. From gallbladder this moves to or enters the small intestine. So this is secreted by the liver and this enters the small intestine, and this makes the medium alkaline. It contains the salt which help to emulsify. Emulsification means breaking of the larger molecules into the smaller molecules. So the salts which are present in the bile, or you can say that bile helps to emulsify or break the fats or lipids present in the food. So biles, you can say bile emulsifies the fats, which are also known as lipids. So its main function is, bile has got two functions. One is to make the acidic food coming from the stomach alkaline. Here you can see the food which is coming from here was acidic because of secretion of HCl, and now the food medium or the medium here has to be changed to alkaline. Why this has to be changed to alkaline? Because the pancreatic enzymes which are secreted by the pancreas, they can act on it. So the pancreatic enzymes can act only in the alkaline medium. Let me write here. They are effective in alkaline medium only. So bile makes the medium alkaline. This is the first function of the bile. As far as the second function is concerned, the salts which are present in the bile, they break the fat present in the food into a small globules, or that is emulsification, and making it easy for the enzymes to act and digest them. And on the other hand, we have pancreas. This is a large gland and this secretes the pancreatic juice. Pancreas secretes pancreatic juice. This contains some enzymes. Pancreatic juice. As far as this pancreatic juice is concerned, it has got pancreatic amylase, trypsin and lipase. Trypsin and lipase. One was salivary amylase, here it is pancreatic amylase, trypsin and the lipase. So these three are present in the pancreatic juice that are secreted by. So they have got different functions. The amylase or the pancreatic amylase, this breaks down the starch, and trypsin digests the protein, and lipase breaks down the emulsified fat. So pancreatic amylase breaks down the starch or further converts this into even smaller molecules which are easy or which can easily be absorbed in the water before the blood carries them to the cells. And trypsin digests the protein at this stage, and for digestion it is required to be broken down into smaller molecules, and for this purpose at the previous stage the emulsification occurs. And the third one, lipase, breaks down the emulsified fats. So at this stage the food is further digested. This is the next stage of the chemical digestion. So the walls of the small intestine, they contain glands which secrete the intestinal juice. This small intestine, from the walls of this, the wall contains the glands. There are so many glands which are present in the body which secrete enzymes and hormones. So I am talking about enzymes here only, not about the hormones. Hormones are required for the growth of the body and their different parts. And enzymes, as I told you, they work as chemical catalyst or biocatalyst for the purpose of this digestion of the food. So there are different types of glands, which the names of which we are not discussing here, present in the wall of the small intestine, and they secrete the intestinal juice, which contains a number of enzymes which completely digest the complex carbohydrates or convert the complex carbohydrates are converted here in the intestine, this small intestine. The complex carbohydrates are converted into glucose, protein into amino acids, and after this we have the fats into fatty acid and glycerol. So every element is converted into the smaller or the digestible molecules, or the larger molecules are converted into smaller molecules. So after this, the next stage is absorption. So ingestion, and after this digestion, and next we have absorption. Absorption is the next stage. So what is absorbed here? The absorption, after digestion it begins, and the smaller molecules which have been formed, smaller and simpler molecules which have been formed from complex and large molecules, like here you can see complex carbohydrate converted into this simple glucose molecule, smaller protein that were also very complex converted into amino acid, small and simple, and fats into fatty acid and glycerols. Now they are in such a form that they can be mixed with water, or water can absorb, and blood ultimately absorbs these. They are soluble in water and they are absorbed by blood. So this also occurs in small intestine. How this occurs? Internal surface of the intestine, whether it is the small intestine or the larger intestine, this has finger like projections. This is the intestine. So it has got the finger like projections like this. These are known as villi. So this is the intestine, and the inner surface has got these projections. They are called villi, villi. The function of the villi is, one is to increase the surface area, and second is to hold all these molecules which are formed for some time, so that the blood can absorb them into its, or blood can assimilate them, and the surface area is increased so that the blood gets enough time to absorb or assimilate them. So this is the function of the villi, and this all occurs in the smaller intestine. So the digested food, this is absorbed through the walls of the small intestine, that goes into our blood, and blood circulates it. Then next stage is assimilation. After absorption, next stage is assimilation. So after absorbing these molecules, the blood carries the digested food and the dissolved food, dissolved in water and carried by the blood, to all parts of the body, and here it becomes assimilated as the part of the cells. Means the cells can store it as per their requirement. So this is used by the body cells for the purpose of obtaining energy, as well as for the growth and repair of the body. And you know that this food which is stored, or this assimilated food which is stored in the cells, so at the time of respiration this is used. This cellular respiration or internal respiration, this is converted into energy, and that part of the food which is not immediately required by the body, that is stored in the liver in the form of glycogen. So that sometimes leads to a problem that is called fatty liver. After that, the next stage is ejection, and how the ejection occurs. The large intestine has also got these internal structures known as villi, so they absorb the excess water from the food which is moving through it, so that it becomes almost dry, and this almost dry food, this enters the rectum, and here we have got the sphincter muscles. So as a result of their movement, expansion and contraction alternately, the food, this waste food, that is totally waste, dry, this enters the anus and moved out of the anus as the excretion. So friends, these are some of these stages which we have discussed, and the different processes of the digestion of the food. And we have also discussed what are the enzymes, which enzymes are secreted from which gland, and what is the function of an enzyme. So hormones we will be discussing separately. Here we have discussed only about the enzymes. So the glands which are present in the body, some of them which we have discussed here. We have endocrine glands, we have exocrine glands. Some function as endocrine, some function as exocrine, and some function like both exocrine and endocrine. So if this question appears in the exam, then you must make or draw a very good diagram using colors like I have drawn here, and explain them stepwise as I have tried to explain here, with function of every organ of the alimentary canal. This total path is known as alimentary canal. The food moves like this. So this is all. Thank you very much, and if you like this video, then please share and subscribe to my channel.